Councilmember Ellis, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. We're going to start in about 6 minutes.
Okay. Do you want me to go back on mute?
No, pardon?
You want me to go back on mute?
No, we can, if you just want to stay on hold. Yeah, on mute. Yeah.
Okay. I'm all decked out, ready to go. Okay. What time are you coming back? All right. I'm on council meeting right now, so you can take the first group. I'll wait, and then when you come back, I'll leave with you, so that I can still stay on meeting right now. So they need one of my votes tonight. Bye, mommy. See.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes, I'm
can
here.
you put on mute? We can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We want to welcome you to the regular council meeting of January 13th. And our agenda for tonight is we have a consent agenda, an action item, 2 briefings, and then unscheduled comments, and then council comments at the end. So at this point, clerk, if you will please take the roll.
Mayor Hartke,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stewart,
Here.
Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Lopez,
Here.
Councilmember Rowe,
Here.
Councilmember Ellis,
Here.
Councilmember Orlando.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, City Clerk. Our invocation tonight will be brought forth by Elder Bruce Lundquist from Faith Church of the Valley. After that, our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Scout Troop 325. So Elder Bruce.
Thank you. All right. Heavenly Father, we praise your holy name. Blessed be your wonderful works among the people of our city. Thank you for the men and women on our city council, and we pray your wisdom and guidance would fill each one of them. Help their decisions to be fair and impartial. We pray especially for the scourge of COVID, which is taking its toll on our loved ones, that it would become less and less over time. Lord, you are mighty and in control. You can heal. We pray you would heal those who are sick with COVID. But as we are here for tonight's city council meeting, we pray for your presence and guidance with any decisions that need to be made. Thank you for those who have given up their time to be here for the betterment of the city of Chandler. Bless this meeting in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Scout Troop 325.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Scout Troop 325 and Elder Bruce Lindquist from Faith Church of the Valley. Council, we had a chance to look at the consent agenda on Monday, and I believe a motion is in order, unless there are other questions or comments.
Sorry?
Councilmember Lynn.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda dated January 13th, 2022.
Second. Second by
Okay.
Councilmember Lopez.
I'm going like this.
Any recusings, other actions? Seeing, hearing none. Council, please vote.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Councilmember Ellis,
Please on the
Councilmember Ellis,
Councilmember Ellis, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
We just approved the consent agenda, waiting for your vote.
All right, and I vote yes.
All right, thank you.
motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you, Council. Next on our agenda, item number 12 is an action item, the election of vice mayor for a 1-year term. Council, I'd like to make a motion that council approve Councilmember Terry Rowe as vice mayor of the council with a term beginning January 14th, 2022 and ending January 12th, 2023.
Mayor, second.
I heard several seconds. I don't. Which one did you hear first? All right, we'll give it to
Harris.
Councilmember Harris.
Woo-hoo!
All right. Council, we've got a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
motion carries unanimously.
it'll take effect after. Okay. Yeah. Next, we have two briefing items. And council, what I'd like to do with your permission is on each of these, start with the presentation, and then the comments or questions can start with the council member that brought these forth. So if we can get the presentations, and then if there is any citizen comments after we're done discussing this at the end. So with that, item number 13, briefing on COVID-19. Chief Dwiggins.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Okay, I have a very brief presentation tonight over COVID-19. This presentation is going to look very similar to the one that we conducted on August 12th of 2021. It's really an update of numbers, specifically the infection rate that we're seeing from the United States all the way to the city of Chandler, and then where we are as far as our vaccine status. So this first slide, you can see that the United States is right around 19.1%. Arizona is at 21.8%, and these are the percentage of positive to the total population. Maricopa County is at 21%, and the city of Chandler is at 21%. Back in August 12th, when we did these numbers, what we saw was probably around a 7 to 8% increase in each one of these categories as far as the location. I can tell you that all of the data that we retrieved has come from either the CDC, the Maricopa County Department of Public Health, or the Arizona Department of Health Services. The two local ones have dashboards where we got that information this morning. As far as our vaccination rate goes, this is the number of people that have started the vaccine process. So it is not those that have completed the 2 series or even the booster injections. This just means that they have started the process with 1 vaccine. This data is actually the percentage of the eligible population, and we make that distinction because you have to be 5 years old or older to get a vaccine. And so when we look at the United States right now, we're at 79.3%. Arizona is at 71.1%. Maricopa County is at 61%, and then the city of Chandler is at 67.4%. So you can see that the city of Chandler's outpacing the county, but we're just a little bit below Arizona, and then of course the United States. Again, going back and looking at August, what we're seeing is about a 3 to 4% increase in the total number of people that have started the series for the vaccines. Okay, so our Chandler zip code data. What I've done here is I've put the 6 zip codes for the city of Chandler, as well as the population. Again, we're looking at the percentage of positives versus the total population. And then for vaccines down below, it's the percentage of people that, again, have started the first dose of the series for the total population. So as you can see for positives, we have, looks like 85225 at 23% is our highest, where we have 85248 is at 18% as our lowest. And then we look to the vaccine percentages, and I believe it was 54.7%, which is 85225 again, and then 69.2% and 85249 as far as what we're seeing for vaccines. Now, the total percentage positive is in line with the first slide that I showed you, in that we've seen a 7 to 8% increase in positive rates. A lot of that obviously is due to the current variant in the Omicron, but it is consistent with what we're seeing across the United States, the state, and the county. And then the vaccine within our zip codes, again, that's about a 3 to 4% increase of people starting that new series in the last few months here. Okay, my final slide it's a slide that you have seen before, and these are the CDC recommendations. These have not changed. The first one is vaccines. There's 3 vaccines available: the Moderna, the Johnson & Johnson, and the Pfizer. Masks is, the CDC is still recommending masks, especially when you cannot social distance indoors. Social distancing, the rule is to stay 6 feet apart if you can. And then finally, hygiene. Ensure that you're washing your hands with soap and water. Make sure that your work areas are clean. All the things that you have to do to keep yourself clean. So that was a very quick presentation based on the data from last August, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah. And let's start with Councilmember Harris, who brought this item forth.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chief. I wanted to bring this because I thought it was important to inform our constituents on what's happening, what's still going on, how we need to prospectively look at this. I mean, there's still a lot of Facebook doctors and all that other stuff, but really making sure people understand their choices that they have to keep themselves safe. With the new variant and the different strands that's happening now, I want to ask you, with the different strands that's happening now, how do we as constituents, how do we stay up to date on learning about these new strands and keeping ourselves protected?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Harris. So the new strand is the Omicron strand, and it's replaced the previous strand. I can tell you that right now, as of this morning, I had a meeting with public health, and it accounts for 95.7% of all cases in the state of Arizona, and so that will continue to rise. As far as gaining information on that strand, it really has been in the United States only since December 1st. And so there's a lot of new information coming out almost daily. But a couple of things that we do know is that one, it spreads much faster. When you look at the epi curve of the last two waves and you look at what's happening right now, probably back in August, what we saw was a curve up, but it stabilized. So what we really did was raise the baseline of the delta. But now what you're seeing is what they're calling an ice pick, and that is a humongous raise. With that said, it also means it's going to come down very quickly. And because it is spreading so quickly, it's the expectation, and they're seeing this in South Africa right now. They're watching it in London. They're seeing that drop start to happen. So just as it's rising quickly, and if we look at last week compared to this week, we've doubled the amount of cases. Uh, the expectation is that's going to happen. Obviously, people can still get sick from this variant, especially those that have underlying condition like a suppressed immune system. But for the most part, what they're seeing is it's not as harmful as the previous strain, as the Delta strain. A lot of that has to do with the variant itself. A lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of people have antibodies. There's a lot of breakthrough cases that are occurring right now, but there's still antibodies there. A lot of people are vaccinated. And so from everything I've seen, we have to take this variant seriously. We have to protect ourselves, but we also have to understand that it is not causing the hospitalizations that the previous strains had caused. There's a new slide out. I just saw that today, and there's a concept called decoupling. And what happens is you have your spikes or your waves occur, and these are cases positive. Following that will be hospitalizations, and then following that will be deaths. They all lag a little bit. But the curve, even though they're not as high as each one, it's the same shape. When a virus in a pandemic starts to decouple, the caseload goes up, but the hospitalization and the deaths do not. It stabilizes out. And I have some optimism with that because that's a good sign. That's when you see decoupling, that is a sign that the end is near and that we move from a pandemic to an endemic. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying that is widespread information. I think this Chief Medical Officer of Banner talked yesterday on the news and said they think 2022 we're going to hit an endemic where we go from this response reactionary mode to how do we live with it moving forward? How do we protect the most vulnerable? What are the things that we have to do to detect it, to ensure that we don't have an outbreak? And so while I join you in my concern with especially this spike, I also I have a little bit of optimism that potentially this could start to be the beginning of the end of the pandemic. We move into a new stage. But all of this information is available. It's available on AZDHS. It's available on Public Health, CDC. There's good sources out there. They're learning every day. It's been a month and a half, and so they're still learning more about the variant. What type of illness it's causing, how it's working with the vaccines, and that information is produced as the studies come out.
And last question, Mayor. Just wanted to make sure that in terms of vaccinations, we still have plenty of vaccinations. If people want to get vaccinated today, they still have the choice to get vaccinated. And I know that I did see Chandler Gilbert is still doing positive. I mean, they're still doing testing. If you want to get a test, it's still free. So can you just talk just real quick about the vaccinations and just testing sites? Thank you.
Sure. So as far as the vaccination goes, we centralized the vaccine and we went into pods and we distribute them through, that approach. But the plan all along was to push them out to the pharmacies, the Walgreens, all of those areas. So we're seeing those, but we also have sites up right now. It's a little bit of a wait. I think, speaking for myself, my wife just got her booster, and it took about a week and a half, but she was able to get it without a problem. Same with I have a 17-year-old son. He was able to get vaccinated. So I know they're available within the city of Chandler. It's easy to make those appointments, and they're out there. What we've seen is a shift. You can still go in and get your first series, whether you want to use Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, or Pfizer. Either one are fine. But people are now starting to look for the boosters, and the boosters are certainly, they do help protect you. They offer a higher level of protection. As you finish your series of vaccines, the distance from your last vaccine, the ability to protect you from a breakthrough case, it really decreases quickly. In fact, right now, as far as all of the vaccines, 2 to 9 weeks after your second vaccine, for the Delta, you're protected at 90%, and for the Omicron, you're at 90%. You fast forward and it starts to come down to 25 plus weeks. The Delta, you're protected at a 64% rate, and Omicron, you're at a 35% rate. And so you do see that protection start to drop over time, which is why they're recommending boosters. 2 weeks after a booster, Delta's back up to a 93% protection rate, and Omicron's at 76. And so Omicron certainly is we're seeing a lot of breakthrough cases. I know we're seeing that in the fire department, but they're still recommending that you get vaccinated for that. And those sites are available. Anybody can go at any time. The testing is available right now. I know the BioNext home test that a lot of people are looking for. They're tough to get, and now they're starting to let you only have one box instead of 3 boxes. But there are testing sites that are still up there. And so all of that stuff is available. I will say that, just as a reminder, Pfizer is the only vaccine that 5 and up can get. Moderna and Johnson & Johnson are both 18 and older. For the Pfizer and the Moderna, you have to wait 5 months from your last dose of your series before you can get a booster. And then for Johnson & Johnson, they actually say after 2 months you can get a booster. But it seems like, a lot of our, I know that when I've looked it up, there's a lot of areas within the city of Chandler that can provide the vaccines.
Thank you.
Council, additional questions related to this briefing?
Mayor.
None on my right. Councilmember Orlando.
So Chief, you mentioned your firefighters. How are you guys holding up?
Through the mayor, Councilman Orlando, it's this is tough from a health standpoint. We're holding up very well, but this is really a disruption of the workforce because we do fall under the CDC guidelines for healthcare. And so what we've seen is, which is actually a blessing, they've taken the isolation period, which isolation is for someone who is positive or who's waiting for a test result but symptomatic, and they move that from 10 days to 5 days. So now you go from 10 days being out to you're 5 days out, and then you have 5 days wearing a mask. But the 5 days out is tough on our schedule. And so we are like everyone else within the city, where we're seeing 2 to 3 positives per day, and right now our challenge is staffing. Um, Luckily, we have a great fire department. We have great firefighters, and so they're working a lot of hours. I think they know and understand that this is not forever. That we're going to graduate a fire academy. I believe it's February 6th with 20 new firefighters. Can't wait till they get out and get on the trucks. But other than that, I think again, there's some optimism that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and so we're going to get through this.
Yeah. So thanks, Chief. Thanks for bringing this forward, Councilmember Harris. My own personal family, it's interesting how this virus affects individuals differently. My dad caught it. He's 88. He showed very few symptoms. In fact, he tested negative first and then positive later. My son, my brother who takes care of my dad, he had mild symptoms, yet his wife had very heavy symptoms, loss of taste, smell, some other stuff. So even though, we feel this is a little less onerous, it still affects you individually differently.
Right.
So to look at that and say, gee, 2/3 of the people are a little bit better off than a third, I don't want to look at that statistic. My point was, if you get a chance to, obviously wear a mask, and, the things CDC recommends. So, but we appreciate it. So.
Is he still vice mayor or council? Vice mayor, that's right.
Thanks, Mayor. Chief, I want to thank you and your team, as well as the police department. From 2020 till today, these briefings we were doing every time we had a meeting, it seemed like, but that giving our community data, letting them make the decisions that they need to do for themselves and their family, it's been, I think, important. We showed a balanced approach, using data to work within the constraints of CDC requirements, the state, and everything, and still move forward. And I was talking earlier with our city clerk about staff and the fire department. I think was the tip of the spear here. You were prepared for this pandemic with PPE, and then also sharing knowledge with the community, with us, and the rest of the team kind of followed your lead as it relates to, okay, we got to get through this. We got to move forward. And I think overall that created a calmness within the community. I know I felt it, being pretty close to it, but I know that other people felt that same way. And I think it's created a ripple effect through a number of different things. So we know what to do now. We know how to deal with this pandemic. And we have an educated community that is working through it. So I just want to thank you. And I'll just keep it at that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. I think that's articulated by all of us. Thank you for your work, and thank you for bringing this information to us tonight.
Thank you.
Our next briefing is on related to fireworks in the city limits, as requested by Councilmember Orlando. And I know we've all heard comments. We've received them on emails. We've seen them on social media. We've all experienced the proliferation of fireworks, legal and illegal. And at this point, I'd like to invite Chief Duggan, I believe, for a report. Is that correct, City Manager? Oh, we'll start over here. Thank you. And then after our presentation, Councilmember Orlando will start off questions or comments. So, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Thank you, Councilmember Orlando, for the opportunity to present on this item this evening. We've been able to put together a quick presentation for you that outlines, I think, a little bit of the questions that we've heard. So some of the history of how we got to where we are today with the current situation, how fireworks that are legal under state law are regulated in the city today, our enforcement efforts, as well as some potential options or recommendations moving forward at the end. I do want to set the tone that this is a very challenging issue for every city across the state. I think we hear that on a regular basis. And a lot of that stems from the fact that it is a state-regulated issue. So you'll see very clearly when our city attorney begins to show you the legislative history of how we got where we are now. Right off the bat, this is a matter of statewide concern, and cities are in fact prohibited from doing a lot of the things that we used to be able to do around this issue. So with that, I'd like to start with our city attorney. There'll be a few different speakers tonight to introduce the history of this issue.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So in 2010, the Arizona State Legislature decided that the regulation of permissible consumer fireworks, and I'm going to let the chief explain in more detail what those are a little later, but basically things that don't go up in the air. But permissible consumer fireworks was a matter of statewide concern. And they adopted a bill, House Bill 2246, which basically very severely limited any local regulation of those fireworks. They are allowed in certain times of the year, and cities and counties are not able to prohibit the sale of them or prohibit the use during those times. That bill was amended in 2014, which further expanded the rights of citizens to use those permissible consumer fireworks and further limited the city's ability to regulate them, and also made violations a civil infraction rather than a crime under the state law. So the cities couldn't make violations of the law relating to the use of those fireworks a misdemeanor. It was a civil infraction. And then in 2015, the state legislature again came in with House Bill 2008, which further limited local regulation and limited what the cities and counties and towns could require for signage, because a number of cities wanted to make sure the limitations on the use was very clearly noted in the places where these permissible consumer fireworks were sold. And we are limited now on what we can require for signage. And then finally in 2019, I guess I could say this was a bit, given us a little bit more authority back on regulation. The state legislature does allow for the seizure or removal of unlawful fireworks offered for sale by the local fire marshal, and allows for the imposition of a fine for the cost of that enforcement. And if somebody violates that law 2 times within a 5-year period, then they get a 3-year ban on their ability to sell fireworks. And I think that was adopted by the cities through our local codes. And then, so what we can do, what the cities can do, we can prohibit the use of permissible consumer fireworks, both the sale and the use, except we have to allow it April 25th through May 6th, May 20th through July 6th, and December 10th through January 3rd of each year. So basically the big celebrations with Cinco de Mayo, 4th of July, and Christmas and New Year's. Those dates were expanded throughout the state preemption law adoptions. And the use runs the same, not as broad as the sale, but May 4th through May 6th, June 24th through July 6th, and December 24th through January 3rd. Cities cannot prohibit the use during those times. And aside from certain fireworks allowed only during those prescribed dates, the permissible consumer fireworks, there's a small category of novelty type fireworks that are allowed year round. Those are the snappers, the poppets, the party poppers, those kind of things. So the city code does prohibit the use of fireworks, but it also complies with state law in allowing the use of the permissible consumer fireworks during those designated dates and the sale during the state law designated dates. They are subject to inspection and permit, which I believe the fire chief will go into more detail on. And permissible consumer fireworks cannot be sold to anyone under the age of 16. I think we're ready to go to the next one.
Mayor, it's just a little segmentized this here, a little bit less flowing here. I got a couple questions for the city attorney.
Please, go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. So is there any thought process into why they give them such long dates? There's 20 days here, 25 days there, but Christmas is 2 day, 3 day time frame. 4th of July is 1 day. I'm just curious why they've allowed for, and those. And then my second question is, they could be sold and exploded during those times, correct?
If I may, Mayor, the time they can be sold is longer than the time that cities cannot prohibit the sale of permissible consumer fireworks is larger than the time that cities cannot prohibit the use. And I think the intent, going back when this was being discussed at the legislature, was you want to give an opportunity for organizations to sell them, to be prepared to use them during those specific times.
So the dates are the 6th and then June 24th through July 6th.
Mhm.
Why June 24th? I mean, it's my anniversary, and I thank them for celebrating my anniversary, but I'm just curious. July 4th is one day. I mean, I'm just trying to find the logic behind it. Was there anything behind that?
If I may, Mayor and Councilmember Orlando, my guess is those were negotiated. I have a feeling the industry wanted more dates, and cities and towns were concerned about them, for various reasons, disturbances, fires, those things. So
Okay.
it was probably negotiated.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Mayor.
Additional questions or comments to city manager before we move on to the second part?
Had one.
What's
Thank you,
that?
Mayor. Kelly, has anybody challenged the signage code for First Amendment violation? I mean, how can they tell us what we can put on a sign if it goes underneath that Gilbert Supreme Court case? Like, could you just say, well, we're going to put it up and then use that as the precedent?
If I may, Mayor, Vice Mayor Stewart, so under the Reed case, the Supreme Court said we can't regulate content. We can regulate size, location, time, place, and manner restrictions. There are parts of the state statute that regulate content or allow regulation of content. To my knowledge, none of those under the state statute has been challenged at this time. It's on the local level.
And I do know, again, just to the sale use, that this is an item that we're picking up as League of Cities and Towns and have it as an issue that we're going to be hoping to work with our legislators if indeed we can find some traction there. But it is on our agenda. And I know after the last season, we responded in kind and session was about over, and there wasn't a whole lot we can do, but it is part of the agenda that we're pushing for this particular season coming up. So we'll see, again, what that looks like and where we can find some friends in the legislature to perhaps narrow those windows or put curfews on later at night to see what we can do. All right, next part of our presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the permissible consumer fireworks, and there's actually 3 areas that we break this down into. And this sheet right here has been on our website. This is something that we push out through our social media sites. I know that I've seen the city push it out as well. But the 3 areas are the permitted use, which are our novelties. Those are your sparklers. Those are the pop-its, some of the smoke bombs. You can buy those throughout the year and use those. The permitted seasonal, and these are the ones that the law actually covers. These are consumer-based 1.4G fireworks. And these are any type of spinners. What we probably see the most out in the neighborhoods are the ones that they emit the showers of sparks. They could have report with them, which means that you'll hear the actual cracking, not as loud as a firecracker, but you will hear the cracking. And those are what are legal only during those dates to sell and utilize. And then the prohibited use fireworks, those are any firecrackers, the smaller ones, the M80s, the M125s, the Roman candles, the bottle rockets, anything that flies into the air is considered an illegal firework. I will say that in my time down in the Fire Prevention Bureau, I've done inspections of these sites, and they're very hard to determine what is legal and what's not legal because they look exactly the same. And so what you have to have is the inspector actually read them to see what type of action there is within that firework. We have over the years developed a very good working relationship with all the vendors. We have had times where maybe we thought that they were illegal and the vendor thought that they were legal. And so we met at a location, usually our training center, and they lit them off for us, right? And it was a determination because of how and we didn't do it just for fun. I see what you're laughing at. Yeah, we did it because we may have said, hey, it says that it shoots flaming balls, and then they're like, no, that means this, and so we would actually have to see it. But it is a good working relationship because it is extremely confusing. I could line 10 of them up right now, and you wouldn't know what was legal and what wasn't legal unless you actually understood the product and knew what to look for. Uh, we do have fireworks sales, a permit process, and so the way that works is that we get an application from the vendor, and the application is actually to utilize a tent within our city. And in that application process, there's a section that asks what the tent is being utilized for, and there's a fireworks section. This application process, we ask how big the tent is, what type it is, whether that it's flammable resistant. We want to know how it's tied down, how it's anchored to the ground, what type of ground it is. We want to see the layout. We want to know that there's exits, how many people they expect, who the RP is, who's going to be on site, where any generators are, storage containers, all of that stuff. We then take that application, we assign it to one of our fire inspectors. They look at that, they make contact with the vendor to make sure that all the information in there is accurate. Once they feel good with that, our inspector will actually go out and do an inspection. First thing they look at is at the tent. And as I said, they're going to look at all of those things to make sure that the tent is certified, that it's not going to blow away. They're going to make sure that the exits are in place, that the extinguishers are good. There's placement for an actual a gas generator. And so they look at everything surrounding the tent. The next thing that they do is they ask them to display all of their fireworks. Part of that application process is they give us the entire inventory that they have. Not only what's going to be on the tables, but what they have in the storage, which is usually a Connex box. Our inspector will go through that display. They'll look at the fireworks. They'll read them. They're essentially looking for any type of illegal fireworks, and they'll go through that entire process. The last thing we'll do is we'll go out to the storage site. At this site, usually these fireworks are sealed in a box. Our inspector will go out and pull random boxes, have them open them up, have them pull the fireworks out so that we can ensure that they are on the inventory list and that they are the proper fireworks. And so this process has been going on since we started fireworks. I can tell you in my time, and it was the first year that we actually made these fireworks legal. We had one bad actor, and we knew it right away. The communication process through the application, there was a lot of red flags that went on. We went out, we did inspect that site. We did find illegal fireworks. We got our police department, our fire marshal, our city prosecutor in, and we shut that site down. Since that time, we have not had any issues. It's been a really good experience. These people work with us. They understand that if they are caught, whether it's through our inspection or if somebody reports that they're selling illegal fireworks, that they only get one other opportunity and then they're going to be shut down. And so I can just tell you from my own experience, and I actually interviewed our inspectors again this morning. They feel like these sites are run very well. They have the right product. They have the legal product. And so what we're seeing in the streets, as far as the things that are shooting up in the air, we do not feel they are coming from these sites. We also go into the Costco's, we go into the Walmarts, we go into the big boxes because there are rules there as well as far as how they store them, where they store them. There used to be quantity rules, and they could only have so many palletized fireworks. NFPA changed that, so we changed that in our code, in our local code amendments. But again, we'll go in, we'll work with the store, we make sure that they're away from any exits, we make sure that the signs are in place, that there is a fire extinguisher, and they have been great to work with. And so on the sales side, the permitting side that we do, it's actually been really good for us, and we have not seen any issues.
Chief, so a question then is, you obviously you don't know what you don't know, but everything that is sold at Costco and Walmart are the same. They have to follow the same levels, so they're not selling things under the guise that you can't shoot these off in Chandler or whatever city. They have to abide to. And you also said that that if you get responses from people in the community who have bought illegal fireworks from, or anecdotally that, because I'm not sure that if I bought illegal fireworks that I would tell you, but if you hear that from someone in the community that they're selling them, if someone's trying to look and see, then you also investigate those. So that's the basis of your relative assurance that these aren't coming from the Walmarts, Costco's, or tented displays, correct?
Mayor, that is correct. That the inspection is our opportunity to make sure that they're selling the right product. And all of those sites, they're all the same fireworks. They look differently, they say different things, but they're 1.4G consumer-based fireworks that do not shoot up in the air and that are not firecrackers. It's all of the shower stuff. So anything within that category can be sold. Any type of reports on the sale where there's illegal sales going on, we will send an inspector out there to investigate it.
Any additional questions or comments for Chief Duggins?
Just a comment, Mayor.
Councilmember Orlando.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for going with permit process. That was something that several residents asked me how they getting these things in. So I know some, like Walmart used to put out a little piece of paper when you sold fireworks, what's legal, what's not, the time frames. Do you see more and more people doing that, or what, more and more fire vendors doing that?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Orlando, we used to ask them, and this speaks to the signs. We wanted a big sign, 10 by 10, saying these are illegal. And you saw different cities doing different things, and so they really regulate what those signs can look like. But we do see the signs, and we look for that. It's written in the code exactly what it has to say, how big the sign's going to be. But yes, we do ask to see that, and for the most part, from what I've seen, that people are compliant with that.
Good. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Any additional questions or comments for Chief Duggins? All right, thank you. Next.
Yeah, I went back. Hang on. All right, I guess we're finished. All right. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Let the Fire Chief. They have a lot of technology experience operating these devices. Well, we'll just leave it at that. You can do it. Right. Anyone else?
Third string.
There we go.
I don't know.
See, wasn't me.
Who's Matt's backup?
Sandeep?
Just scroll down here and pick on it.
Yeah, maybe that will work.
There you go. Just hit that one there. Yep. All right.
See if you can get it, won't you? Click to side stuff.
Thanks, Pat.
Yep. Didn't do much, did you?
I can just speak to it if we can't get it going. Yep. 7.
What was it? Oh,
7. That's it. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. If you look at the screen, you can see that New Year's Eve was a very busy evening for policing here in Chandler. And compounding that, it was also a Friday night, which is normally busy in and of itself. So that evening, between 6 p.m. and 3 a.m., we had a total of 507 calls, which is a very, very busy night. 126 of those were related to fireworks complaints, and then 381 other calls from crimes of progress, domestic violence, collisions, everything else that we typically deal with. So of the 126 fireworks related calls, 77 of those calls, the caller gave no specific location. So when the officer went to a general area, if they couldn't pinpoint something, then they just went on to the next call. But 33 times, they did provide a location. And when the officers responded to those calls, they did not observe any type of violation. And the reasoning behind that is for most all of these were very delayed calls. So we prioritize, we triage. I said when it's acts of violence or collisions, we're continually moving calls and bumping calls and pushing the priority one calls up to the top. So the reality is some of these calls may have taken hours before the officer responded to the fireworks related calls. The calls that they did go to and managed to see people using fireworks, they gave warnings 16 of those times. And by the end of the night, there were no citations issued anywhere in the city. And that really is really no different than any other city, certainly in the East Valley. We reached out to the Phoenix commander of South Mountain Precinct, which borders Chandler, and they had exceptionally high call volume, as you can imagine, that night, and they issued no citations. I spoke with the chiefs of Mesa, Gilbert, and Scottsdale. Again, exceptionally high call volume throughout the night, and collectively, no citations were issued. So we weren't really doing anything different. We're trying to keep our head above water and go to those priority one type calls. So that was the focus on New Year's Eve. But the fireworks, the complaints we were getting throughout the entire week, even back on Christmas Eve. And on that night, we did issue a number of citations. But by and large, we are not issuing citations. Either we're not getting there fast enough, or we are engaged in other activity that just drawing our attention. So moving forward, there are things that we can do. I mean, collectively as a city, we can double down on our efforts to educate and prevent the use of illegal fireworks, and then staffing permitted with enough notice, we may be able to put in a task force together, dedicated officers working extra that evening to focus primarily on those fireworks related type of calls, responding directly, proactively, or responding as a result of our complaints. So that's kind of what happened on, it's very much what happened on New Year's Eve, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have regarding the fireworks.
Yeah. So Chief, let me start with this one then. There was an article that came out, I think, in news that said that Phoenix was working with witnesses, so the officers didn't need to be there to actually issue warnings or citations. And I appreciate the numbers that you just shared, but are they doing anything different than we are? So if we get a call and someone shows a display of fireworks, or it's obvious that this has happened, rather than just hearsay, we respond to those? And how does Phoenix do anything different than we do with that article that was released on that?
Well, anecdotally, I would say that Phoenix has probably done a lot less than what we are doing, just because of their demands and their staffing shortages. But what that article referred to was essentially the elements of a crime. So the illegal fireworks, still a misdemeanor in our city, so it's building the case. So it'd be better if the officer saw it, stronger for court if they saw it in person, but there could be evidence at the scene. You have the burn marks, you have the canisters, the spent canisters, witness statements. It's no different than investigating any other crime. So it's connecting those dots, building that case. So the question is, do we have the time and effort to spend on that when we're focusing on other top priority calls? So when the time and effort when the time is available, we would certainly investigate it like we would any other misdemeanor crime.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions or comments?
See, Mayor.
Councilmember Lander.
So just to reiterate, and I appreciate this is just New Year's Eve. So you add those other days we spoke about earlier, I'm sure it's just as high or maybe as high. So it's not just a one-time event. It's 6 or 7 or whatever those dates. I can do the math real quick that you're facing that challenge.
Right. Clearly, New Year's Eve was pinnacle. That was
Sure.
the highest night. But there were, I mean, as you know, we live in the city. There were fireworks throughout that week, as there were leading up to 4th of July and then Cinco de Mayo. So this has been an ongoing issue for many years. It just seems to be getting a lot of traction. These illegal fireworks are available, readily available. So you can get them from other states. You can get them from Mexico. The fireworks are everywhere. They're just prolific in our community.
Yeah, I agree. And I know there's, and Mayor, I don't know if you want to finish up here and I got some more comments, but okay. So, yeah, and City Manager, I appreciate you doing this. Again, these are the issues that I was getting from the residents. I know the mayor and some of the council members were really involved with it about, how the permit process work. And I really appreciate it. It's kind of at least educating the public on what we're trying to do here. And I also see your recommendations here. The mayor indicated earlier, we're trying to see if we could get timeframes at least. So if you do have to go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning, because not everybody is off New Year's Eve or July 4th or those other dates, including Chandler Police and Fire and some other folks in this room. So I think that's a good idea. I like the idea of the proactive communication. Maybe we could do a better push on that. Maybe print media, social media, whatever we could do to get that information out early enough and far enough to say these are legal, these are not illegal. One of the things I read another city does, I think it was in Missouri, they actually have a common area. I'm not suggesting we do that, but maybe there's a common area we could say, hey, if you want to shoot your fireworks off, go to maybe Tumbleweed or some other area, just so that we could, keep it focused. If that's practical, I'm just thinking there's got to be ways that we could help mitigate this. And again, Chief, again, if during the budget time, if we need to look at additional resources for those particular nights to be able to at least, mitigate. And I don't think we'll ever solve this issue. I think the expectations here is to solve this, but until the law is changed, Mayor, or modified or something, at least we can mitigate this issue and have least people affected, including you, Chief, right? I think you were affected that night too, if I'm not mistaken. So, but at least mitigate this. Mayor, I like your idea of timeframes. Yeah, actually time, when you can shoot these off and things like that. It might help us a little bit easier. So, we're in this together. I just hope we could come up with some better ideas. Communication, start with that. I like that idea. We're doing a good job now. Let's keep pressing on. And then if we could come up with some additional resources for that, those particular nights in general, then we could at least, again, mitigate. Get 16, maybe it's 32. And maybe it's 40, and those folks now know those are legal, and they're not. And I'm sure most of these people know once you tell them that's illegal, they might say, "Oh wow, I'm not going to do that again" or something. I'm sure there's vast majority of those folks out there. So, thanks, Mayor. Thanks for bringing this forward. I mean, thanks again, City Manager, for putting this together. I know we had a little discussion about that, and I know there's frustration on everyone's part in here, including all of us. So I certainly appreciate that. Thanks.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, Steve. Thank you, Mayor. So you mentioned, again, I'm a kind of a root cause guy. So again, a lot of the sourcing of this is complaints. And again, even if it's loud and it's like the fountains and stuff, I mean, we don't know when those complaints are coming in right now, whether it is that they're illegal or if it's just because they're noisy, or are the reports of those when the call outs are made that it is specifically said that they know that they're illegal fireworks.
Well, it's a combination, but when they say any aerial firework is illegal. So when they say that fireworks are going off above my house, pretty good indicator it's illegal.
Yeah, unless they're throwing them up, I guess. But and you mentioned that the illegal fireworks are prevalent here, and you're going after the root cause. Is it? And you say they're being transported again from Mexico or from, because I didn't know this before.
Surrounding states.
Our surrounding states. All of our surrounding states are more permissive on those fireworks than we are, including California.
I know New Mexico is. I'm not sure about California or Nevada, but they could be coming from anywhere.
And just because I'm not very knowledgeable on this, is the transportation of those fireworks into Arizona illegal? I mean, I know you can't buy them here per our state statute, But are there transportation or possession illegal also?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would think that they're considered contraband, but I don't want to speak to that directly.
Maybe the city attorney would know that one.
If I may, Councilmember Lopez, they would be illegal and could be seized as contraband. Of course, catching them, finding them is the issue.
Okay. All right. Answer my question. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Thanks for the presentation. And clearly your prioritization of calls is working. I saw something recently. We were ranked one of the lowest crime major cities in America again. So I haven't had a chance to see you in a while, but thank the team for us. We appreciate that. So whatever you're doing is working. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments related to this? We do have one speaker card after our presentations and our conversation is over. Any additional?
Mayor.
Oh,
Sorry.
City Manager.
If you'd like, I can just sort of summarize at the end here.
Please.
Before you'd like to. So I know we have one final slide here, if that's up on the screen. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I think we've covered most of this, but I just want to reemphasize that really the top recommendation from staff is going to be pursuing a legislative solution. I think as you've heard tonight, it's not so much that fireworks are illegal fireworks are somehow being permitted under state law. It's that it sort of set a tone statewide back in 2010 that allowed illegal fireworks to be viewed as maybe something that's more acceptable in Arizona. So that's part of the challenge that we have. It's not so much that state law as it is needs to be completely thrown out. It's that we lose that local regulatory authority that we used to have prior to 2010. And so that's what we're working on. The League of Cities, I will tell you, and the Mayor emphasized this earlier, has been active on this issue. It is a difficult topic at the legislature. So I don't want to give an optimistic viewpoint. I know I've spoken with Ryan Peters recently about, is there an audience for this year? Unfortunately, a lot of the same legislators that were in office when this went into effect in 2010 are also in office now. And so there may not be as much reception to this as we would hope among the cities, but we can certainly try. With enhanced communication, we do communication every year. I don't want to give the impression that we do not. We do it through social media. We do it through print media, but we can certainly ramp that up. I've spoken with Matt Burdick, our communications director today. We can certainly look at some other campaign type advertising to help distinguish better what is legal versus illegal and maybe help prevent some of the activity you see on some of these major holidays. And then as Chief Duggan said, our final recommendation would be as resources allow. And of course, these are the same nights that you're seeing this activity, the same nights that everything else is going on in the city too. So it is going to be a priority basis, but we certainly can work on, as resources allow, dedicating some more officers to be able to patrol the streets or respond to complaints that come in. So we can make sure that that is in place going forward on these major dates.
And there's also, there was a conversation that we were talking about in terms of currently people are setting off fireworks off in the middle of streets, and we've got some code amendments coming with that too, don't we?
Mr. Mayor, that is correct. So we update the fire code for the city of Chandler periodically. There is an update that is coming to you this year, and that is one of the items that will be included in that. Again, I don't want to give the impression that will solve all the problems, but it certainly could be one more tool that we may be able to use from a code basis.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments for City Manager? All right, we do have one speaker card on this. This is by Ruth Jones. Ruth, you have 3 minutes. The light will be green, and at 30 seconds, it'll turn yellow. And at red, your time is up. So if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Ruth Jones, 2734 East Birchwood Place, and that's in Chandler, of course. I'm here today to weigh in on the illegal firework issue. I know there are some who love to set off the fireworks, but the groups that are hurt by this activity are many. Our veterans suffer PTSD from the noise. Our children can't sleep. Pets are an essential part of our home, and the effect to them is long-lasting. But yet that's not the end of the problems. The smell of sulfur and the cloud of smoke in the air is a real hazard to those with asthma or COPD. And perhaps even more concerning, we live in a state with drought conditions being the norm. I went out on New Year's Eve with several citizens who wanted me to see what it was like in their neighborhood. And as we watched one display, my car was pelted with debris. Luckily, it was wet that night, but the danger of a hot projectile starting a fire is real. Using illegal fireworks in regular neighborhood means all homeowners are in danger of these random fires. What can be done? As we heard tonight, some types of fireworks are legal and some are not. The law is clear. Simply put, if it shoots in the air, it is not legal. The dates for the sale and use of fireworks have been set forth and are in the Arizona statutes. We have all the information we need as a city to develop a plan to stop the use of illegal fireworks. Councilman Orlando, I want to thank you for bringing this issue forward. I appreciate that. Mayor Harkey, I was disappointed by your response on social media to this issue. You repeatedly told citizens you wanted to wait and discuss this with other cities and see what they were doing. I quote, Tempe has a fireworks task force and we can look into that. You also said this is a state issue, even going so far as to list the state senators and representatives by name. I'm urging you to change that narrative. Chandler is a city that has always been seen as leading, not following and waiting on other cities to make policy. We need to develop a comprehensive plan to tackle this issue. I would begin with education, a campaign to help our citizens know the law and distinguish if the fireworks they're setting off are legal or not. I would then work on a strong enforcement plan. Our police and fire department work hard for our city. Work with them and make sure they have the resources they need in order to fight this issue and not take focus off more serious crimes of DUI or other issues. There are other options, such as having more displays set off by the city, enabling us to let people see the fireworks without setting them off themselves. All in all, we need to take these discussions seriously and take action now. The state set the laws and you need to create a plan to enforce them. I urge you to be leaders of our city and listen to the citizens' issues. Thank you.
And I believe we have a plan before you, and we will continue to work on that. Next on our agenda tonight is unscheduled public appearances, and I have one speaker card here from Mr. Hatch. Good evening, sir. Mr. Hatch, if you could state your name and address for the record, and again, you have 3 minutes to share your thoughts and concerns.
Hiram Hatch, 700 North Dobson Road, number 16, Chandler, 85224. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, thank you for your service to our wonderful city. I have appreciated meeting one-on-one with you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Joshua Wright, as well as Steve Turner, one of the assistant city managers. I want to congratulate you all for your hiring of our new airport manager. Someone that I feel can lead the airport forward. Mr. Ryan Reeves has a vast amount of experience and a true love of aviation and all things related to it. I hope he's allowed to use his expertise to solve some of the ongoing problems at the airport and lead it to a new level, which I truly believe he is personally capable of doing. In 2003, I saw the need to build hangars at Chandler to attract the kind of aircraft that wanted to base here, but couldn't. I built 3 different projects over the years, totaling more than 70,000 square feet of hangars and commercial space. My last project was completed 7 years ago on the airport. That project sold out before we even had an occupancy permit. I immediately encouraged the airport or the city to issue an RFP for more development to attract more aircraft, but up until this past August, 7 years, no RFP, no development, even though we have a waiting list of over 150 aircraft. If we want this airport to become self-sustaining financially, it needs to be able to grow and get these aircraft on the field. Potential aircraft owners want to consider Chandler as their base. If we want them to, we're competing against Stellar, against Pegasus, against Mesa Gateway, against Falcon. All of these fields have available space. So if you have a plane that's you're buying for $500,000 to $10 million, you're not going to base it at Chandler unless you have an empty hangar to put it in. Plain and simple, we're way behind the curve. Chandler needs to try to be that airport so that we can get these aircraft to base here. Every aircraft that bases at Chandler pays for land to sit on, whether it's on an open tie-down, whether it's on a city hangar, whether it's in a privately developed hangar, whether it's in a covered tie-down, they all pay. They all pay a fuel tax. They all pay businesses on the airport to maintain their planes and do that kind of stuff, and that's how we're going to balance the airport budget. For the past 7 years, we've essentially been out of the competition to be able to do those things. I encourage you to allow our airport to develop to be self-sustaining. We are currently 50 spots behind the day, and we'll be another 50 spots behind before these 50 can be developed. The process takes a long time, 3 or more years, but I think it can and should be done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. That
Mayor,
concludes.
sorry. City Manager, could you get us some information about what the next phases are? I know we just went through an airport study plan, and perhaps that needs to be communicated, and what we're going to do with additional tie downs or whatever the case may be.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda tonight is council meeting announcements, and I have two. I want to invite you all to come out and enjoy our multicultural festival. I think I've been at close to every one over the last several decades, and we will see cultural performances, kids activities, vendors, and delicious food at the 27th Annual Multicultural Festival this Saturday at Dr. A.J. Chandler Park, and that's between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. It'll be a tremendous event, and I hope you will join me and council out there. And secondly, I do also want to invite you on, I'm assuming Councilmember Harris has got a preceding announcement, so I'll take the latter, is we're having a celebration sponsored by the Chandler Men of Action and Chandler Church of the Valley for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Though that's celebrated on the 17th, on 16th at 6 p.m., there will be a service involving several of us here at again, the Congregational Church of the Valley. The Voice celebration will be held there and is open to the public. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor, and I will be there. Also, tomorrow, I'm asking everyone to join me right here in the council chambers for the 2022 Martin Luther King Jr. Keeping the Dream Alive Award ceremony. So I will be hosting along with mayor and council. And we're going to be honoring some really great, phenomenal people who have led our community with their vision, passion, and dedication. And also, we will be recognizing Pastor Victor Hardy with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Certainly, we can't say enough about what he has contributed to the city of Chandler in so many different ways, have been a part of for our city and other various aspects of giving back to the poor and making sure that everyone is represented here in the city of Chandler. And we are very thankful. Actually, if I don't mind, I have his wife is in the audience today. Cynthia, First Lady Cynthia Hardy is here as well. And you can expect Pastor Victor Hardy and his wife to be here most of our council meetings throughout the year. So please join us tomorrow here at 3:30 p.m. It's going to be a great event. There's going to be a violinist. There's going to be a lot of great people here. So just come out and enjoy. Come to the council chambers, and it starts at 3:30. Be here or not be here. Thank you, man. Be here though.
I look forward to joining you at your event here on tomorrow night. Councilmember Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. So here to talk about the Chandler International Film Festival. It's that time of year again. And so for those that have a love of film, the 6th Annual International Film Festival is coming back. So we're kicking off January 18th with the red carpet through the 23rd, and it'll be hosted at the Look Drive-In right here in downtown Chandler. The festival will be featuring over 120 films from all stretches around the world. The film schedule and for more information, you can look it online, chandlerfilmfestival.com. So every night there is a VIP and after hours event, and there's an award ceremony. So definitely check out all of the different options you have in the films. There's horror, there's shorts, and there's animation. So whatever passion you may have, there is one for you there. So definitely take a look, and I'll see you there.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you and council for bestowing the honor of being vice mayor for the past year. I've got to tell you, it is something else to be a part of this community and a part of this group, and working together in all of our meetings, in agreement and sometimes not in agreement. But I feel blessed to be a part of this, and I feel blessed to be a part of Chandler. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you sitting in this chair, Terry. That's what's next.
Councilmember Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll start off by thanking the mayor and thanking this council and the vice mayor for holding a spot and doing a great job with vice mayor over this past year. And I think somebody said it out here. They said, "Thank you for your service to this wonderful city." And I thought that was kind of one of the best things I've heard tonight. So came right out of the room here. So the other thing is that I rarely do this, but and I don't know why I should do better. But on the 16th, my wife and I will celebrate our 41st anniversary together, and we've actually spent 43 years together, but 41 years married. And so I thank her for that because her patience makes that all possible. And then, of course, I want to remind everybody to shop Chandler. And I always want to shout out to our incredible staff and for you all sitting here and enduring these conversations. And we appreciate that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Orlando.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, other than Happy New Year's, and thank you, residents, for being engaged in our community. Really appreciate that. That gives us a good guidepost and be able to help us do our job better. So, and congratulations, Vice Mayor Rowe.
Thank you.
Starting now.
Well, soon.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly, congratulations, Councilman Rowe, on your appointment as Vice Mayor. Look forward to working with you this coming year. Also wanted to just congratulate publicly Andy Bass. Tonight is his first night joining us up here on the dais as our new Deputy City Manager. So congratulations to you on your promotion. We're excited to have you joining us up here during the council meetings. Thank you.
All right, with that concludes our meeting tonight.